Let me come to you then, Andrew. He did a lot of... It was a thumbnail list of certain types of characters. Everyone got a mention, from the NHS workers through teachers, through pensioners. He even gave the lionesses a name.
He did, didn't he?
He speaks to people in a way that Rishi Sunak fails to do.
I think people always make the mistake. They assume that you have to go on party lines. I think he's a very good communicator.
Yeah.
So credit where credit's due. I also love the imagery, because he looks as though, talk about transformation, he looks as though he's on the set of the Transformers. He's
he looks like he's on the set of Bob the Builder.
He does, doesn't he? He looks rather than Keir Starmer. He's Keir Starmer with the new technology and transforming to that. He also has got his sleeves rolled up, and but it's a lot of sound bites, and the devil is always in the detail. I couldn't disagree with anything he said there.
No, it was very hard to.
But we don't want to. And I think rather when we're talking about political analysis and sort of turning around, where do we both vote? I think we both said we're fairly promiscuous, aren't we? We're absolutely open, and as journalists should be.
Just to be clear, what Andrew and I were talking about being promiscuous voters, just because you were just tuning in. The idea being that, like a lot of people, I don't feel that visceral connection to a political party. I want them to impress me at the time. I want the individuals and their policies to win my vote. Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Beverly. And what I love about it is that we keep an open mind. As journalists, anyway, we should be analysing the stuff. And both sides, basically, they're little bones. I wouldn't say there's much meat on it yet.
No.
He talks about, and I've always said this with always the discussions, is basically you need to put the meat. The devil is in the detail. He's promised again, he's going to do a fully funded proposal. I look forward to reading that, and let's analyse that.
Yeah.
What we also need to look at, the sound bites. He was talking about sticky plaster. I love that sort of stuff. He missed a trick, though. He talked about trust, power and control. If he'd mixed it up, and then rather than did trust, control and power, he could have had TCP to tie in with the sticky plaster policies. So
very good.
It would have been good. He would have worked on that basis.
You on the phone. And the idea that a lot of people will relate and will feel that anger that he has about short-termist Westminster politics. But what he fails to explain is why it is short-termist and why what he would do would be any different, I guess. So let me know what you think. gbviews at gbnews.uk. Loads more to talk about. Gentlemen, thank you for kicking us off. Now, let me reintroduce you to my panel this morning. I'm delighted to be joined by broadcaster, lawyer and futurist Andrew Eborn and the former editor of Labourist Peter Edwards. Right, we've got to talk about Prince Harry.
It's quite extraordinary, and I'll tell you what...
It is, but do you know what? Family arguments.
Oh, we have family arguments all the time.
They get like that.
What I think is fascinating, this story broke this morning, and the great GB News viewers have spoken about nothing else. And what's really interesting... I'm talking...
How do you know that?
Well, no, because I spoke to our social media guys and girls, and this is what they said. And people are... And the interesting pattern is everybody but everybody is speaking against Harry. There's not yet been anybody... I always try, as you know, to put a bit of balance. The other big revelation which has come out is about the Nazi uniform. And you might remember, breaking news if you haven't heard it, because it's just in the last few minutes, is that the famous 2005 party that Harry went to, and he wore, or chose to wear, a Nazi uniform. What has come out today, in the last few minutes, is that he spoke to William about the choice of outfit. And he had I think there was a uniform, just a traditional military uniform or whatever, or he could have worn this Nazi thing. And apparently he was encouraged by William and Kate to wear this Nazi uniform. So all of a sudden, and you say that they're not briefing, I can guarantee there were big revelations about the Netflix series. If people didn't already know, they have their own PR machines. And they basically brief against each other. That's what Harry's saying. My objection to this is it needs to be balanced. You need, as a lawyer, you need to turn around and hear both sides.
You know what? William is not going to respond, is he? I mean, he has to. I mean, if he starts to lay the Nazi
but maybe
indirectly at his speech, then he might have to. But just really sad. None of us want this. But what else have they got? Just keep criticising the family, and then what? I sort of read it. I thought, God, don't blame Prince William for taking a slug at him. I'm not endorsing violence, but you know what I mean. I can imagine how enraged they would be with the behaviour. Right, electric cars of the future. This is all the fault of you lot.
Me lot.
The technocrats.
Oh, we love all of this. I did predict this, as you know. And we talk about the rise of the machine. You saw Keir with the wonderful...
It terrifies me.
It does, I know. And you lost your phone today.
Well, I lost my phone today, ladies and gentlemen. So I came in without my phone, and I thought, oh, do I turn around and do I go and get it, or do I just carry on? So I thought, I'll get here. Guess what? Couldn't pay for my parking. Couldn't go and buy the boys' breakfast, which I normally buy on the way in for my little team, because everything's on my phone. I couldn't use the navigational app to get here, so I was 20 minutes later than I would normally be.
We must never be, and I've said this a lot, I'm a massive advocate of technology and the advances, the tremendous advances that we're making in this country about AI and robotics and so on and so forth. We mustn't be a slave to those sort of sides. And that's what's happened. The more means of communication, I often say this, the more means of communication that we have, the less we're able to communicate. And you see people, they're so dependent on that. Most people can't write. We've now got AI. They're worried in schools and universities that they're going to be able to write essays, and yes, they are.
Yeah, of course they are.
And they're going to turn around and say, look, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Eventually, many jobs, I've warned about this beforehand, many jobs will be made redundant and replaced by machines. And part of the problems about strikes and things like that, necessity, as I say, is the mother of invention. And that forces technology to progress.
Well, very good morning. It's 11:25. This is Bev Turner today on GB News. My panel are back with me. I'm joined by broadcaster, lawyer and futurist Andrew Eborn and former editor of Labelist Peter Edwards. Both of you complimented me on my green dress.
Oh, we love it. We love it.
Thank you. I bought this in Tesco's last night.
Hey, I hope you're on commission, because everybody's going to be flooding into the stores.
I went in to buy some food and I came out with a dress. I thought it would look good with your eyes, Peter, and it does. Right, now, what is going on with the Sussexes and the Mandelas?
Well, I'll tell you what's going on. Behind the scenes, with the launch of the book on the 10th of January, Spare Us All, and the Netflix stories, and more revelations every day. What's going on is the media are being fed all sorts of stories. And the best way, it was P.T. Barnum who said the best way of drawing an audience is to start a fight. So, surprise, surprise.
Circus man Barnum.
Great circus man Barnum.
Yeah.
Great way of doing it. You get an icon in history like Mandela. So what you can do, he's obviously not with us anymore, but the granddaughter all of a sudden has come out of the woodwork and said that they've been using the Mandela name to cash in on my grandfather. It's totally unfair. They said it's deeply upsetting and tedious. And they're talking about it's a documentary series is what it is. And actually Archwell Productions, one of the co-producers in it, are basically doing about Mandela and so on and so forth. She was basically, the granddaughter was saying they probably only met them when they were really little. Harry, when he was really little, he would never remember. But apparently at his home, he has a picture of Diana and Mandela, and he's very proud of it.
Well, I just said this is going to be the greatest act of reinvention.
It is interesting. I mean, it's interesting about the political thing, because I predicted on this very table in November 2021, when I was originally on the channel in the early days, and that Meghan Markle absolutely was on a PR campaign.
That's because you're a futurist.
A futurist. I knew you were going to say that. It's got to be good. But absolutely, and I think she would be an ideal candidate. There's support behind that. We don't get it in the UK, and I spoke in the last bit about the social media and what's happening here. Everybody is against Harry at the moment. I can tell you there will be more revelations as the books come out, and talking about bullying and the necklace. And the only necklace that we can find online was actually the one given to him by Chelsea years ago.
By his ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I don't think he was still wearing the necklace given by his ex-girlfriend. Meghan Markle would not have been happy about that.
And it was basically a necklace of love, is what it was.
Oh, he definitely wasn't wearing that.
But it is interesting, and that's what's going to dominate the stories. It was the most popular story on Netflix, Beat the Crown.
Yeah.
And however much we criticise, it's what I said before, P.T. Barnum, that's it. You want to draw a crowd, start that fight. And that fight is certainly happening.
I wonder when they'll become irrelevant, Peter.
I also
think they'll stay together.
Oh, that's an interesting one. They love it.
I just think about how stressful that must be, living in that house.
It's incredibly stressful. And I always think...
listen, not stressful. They're living in a Montecito mansion. When I say stressful, I mean, it's all relative, right? But I'm just talking about their dynamic, because it's a sort of... could be a bonfire of the vanities. There's a lot of ego in both of them.
It's a terrible thing. And as I say, I'm probably one of the few people who say something positive about them. So I think it's important to say something positive. And what they have done for mental health, for example, has been great. What Harry did for the Invictus Games...
It was amazing.
Was absolutely amazing. So we should remember those good things. And just imagine for a moment that if what he's saying is true, because a lot of people are approaching all of these stories on the basis that we've got our own prejudices and therefore whatever comes out of Meghan's mouth, we're going to disagree. You know there are ongoing disputes with the various press, and they've won all their cases so far. There are going to be more cases this year.
Yeah.
They're being encouraged to settle the current one, and we're talking about that on a regular basis. So I think there is the good side, and the good side is people in the public eye who can use their status for raising awareness about things like mental health, and a genuine issue. I want us to be the generation that speaks about mental health so that the next generation doesn't suffer the stigma. And I think those in the public eye who can use that for good should be encouraged.
OK, let me introduce you to my panel this morning again. I'm delighted to be joined by broadcaster, lawyer and futurist Andrew Eborn and former editor of Labourist Peter Edwards. Right.
It's very clever because I think you under-promise and over-deliver. And you're right. I mean, the wonderful thing, halve inflation, grow the economy, get debt falling, cut NHS waiting lists and stop small boats. It's the rule of 5. It used to be the rule of 3. He did the same when he was talking about the migration problem. That had a similar sort of 5 rule. I guess it used to be 3 plus inflation. That's why it's now 5. But you're always looking for the soundbite. And I think you're right. If you look at that sort of principle, everybody but everybody, all the forecasters, including me, were saying that you're going to get all of these anyway. You know that inflation is probably 2/3 they're going to slice off it. So it's going to be much, much better than people do.
Do you know what, though? I think the general public's... How do I phrase this? The general public's gaze for balderdash is very finely tuned at the moment because we're feeling these decisions every day. We go to fill up the car, we go to pay the electricity bill. So I think we're primed to see through the fluff.
Oh, we are. One of the papers talks about the Daily Star, a cunning plan. They reference Baldrick and that sort of stuff. And they do. I think the general public get and see through these things. I said earlier when we listened to Keir's speech as well, listen to the balance. Nobody can disagree with any of the things, either in Keir's speech or
the principle.
The principle, of course. I want it to be hotter in the summer. Well, I'll organise that for you. Those sort of principles. The detail, the devil is going to be in the detail. That's what we need to look at. Let's analyse that. And it's what you and I were saying earlier about we can be promiscuous in terms of our sort of politics, if you like, because there's some common fundamental points that should apply to all parties. We want to address the serious issues, and let's find the best way of trying to do that.
We talked earlier, didn't we, about how Keir Starmer kind of is more relatable, Peter, although it is much easier to be relatable when you are in opposition. Does he genuinely have the charisma, though, to win an election?
I think he does, but I'm not sure charisma is the most important thing. And you might say, well, of course I'd say that, but I also don't think he's boring.
Why would I say that?
That's a terrible thing to say.
What?
You're a man dripping in charisma, Peter Edwards.
You floored me with that. You floored me with that completely.
No, that wasn't what you meant. Carry on.
You floored me. I think
there are questions to be asked about.
And people should ask those questions. But the thing I object to most, however, is that we seem to resent success. The fact that everybody always sort of says the billionaire and that sort of stuff. Does it matter? Do we not want our leaders to be successful?
I want them to be successful. I do not resent success. If people work hard and make tons of money, all credit to them. But if there is a nefarious intent that might put more money in your pocket that might harm the British public, I've got a massive problem with that.
And you should call that out across any of it. So definitely ask the questions. And it's rather similar to what they were saying about what would they do differently. That's one of the questions about Keir, and you need to put the relative sort of emphasis on that. I would love both sides to sit down together and have a proper discussion where you get into it, get away from the sound bites, because both of them today were about sound bites.
Oh, I'll chair that. I'll chair that.
Absolutely.
Should we just talk about dogs?
Oh, let's talk about dogs. And it's really good because we've been surrounded in the last few months especially with the passing of some major figures. Obviously Her Majesty the Queen, we've had Pope Benedict, we're talking about Faye Weldon, the wonderful Faye Weldon. Wonderful thing about how you deal with death and that sort of stuff. Comedian Bill Bailey says his 3 dogs have really helped his mental health, and he was talking, it's a great article in the Express today, and about the passing of Sean Locke. Who died from cancer, a comedian, brilliant comedian. And there are many, many brilliant people in the arts and so on and so forth. But he says, look, his dogs have been a major source of helping him with his mental health. And I know there are lots of people out there who have suffered in a tremendous way, and their pets are they're part of the family. And I think we should embrace those as well.
I'm scared of dogs.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well,
I can't think of anything worse for my mental health than being stuck in a room with a load of dogs. I'm genuinely terrified of dogs.
Oh, right. We used to have loads. We used to have big ones. I had an Irish wolfhound.
Oh, that's my worst nightmare. How about you, Peter?
I've never had a pet, but similarly, I wouldn't like to be locked. It's a bit Orwellian to be locked in a room full of dogs, isn't it? Room 101.
It is a bit, yeah. But I think, but I know that I'm the exception. I don't get it. My children think I'm mad. They all love dogs. They would have a house full of dogs if I let them. But I think there is the idea of the emotional support dog. Didn't Prince Harry have one of those?
Lots of those sort of things.
Prince Harry had an emotional support dog.
Animals and cats.
Anyway, that seems like a fitting note to end it on. Peter Edwards, Andrew Eborn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have come to the end of our show. Thank you for all your contributions. Coming up next is GB News Live. Tomorrow night. It's Thursday, isn't it? That's been a short week. See you tomorrow night at 7.
Hello, I'm Alex Deakin, and this is your latest weather update from...